It was a typical week of Premier League football, full of incredible goals and dodgy decisions, so let's take a look at this week's heroes and villains from the Premier League. Our first hero of the week is JORDON. The English winger had a shocking first season at Bournemouth last year, scoring 0 goals and recording 0 assists following his £15 million move from Liverpool, where he was one of the club's highest rated youth products. The Cherries themselves have had a disappointing start to the season, but that came to an end on Friday night at Dean Court when they came from behind to beat Brighton, with JORDON providing 2 assists to give them a 2-1 victory over the Seagulls. Eddie Howe's side are off the mark, and they have the craft of JORDON to thank, something that was totally AWOL last season. The first villains of the weekend are Crystal Palace. So since the Eagles lost against Southampton, does that mean Roy Hodgson is 3 games away from the sack now? Palace face Man City, Man United and then Chelsea, the Premier League's top 3, so if they lose those 3 games, which looks pretty likely, will Hodgson be back on the unemployment line next to Frank de Boer? Let us know in the comments below. Palace looked no better under Hodgson than they did under de Boer, and it could be another month before they score their first Premier League goal. Back to the heroes, and we've got Gareth Barry. The 36-year-old equalled Ryan Giggs' record of 632 Premier League appearances at the weekend and will break that record if he appears against Arsenal next week. His place in Tony Pulis' starting 11 also meant it was his 600th Premier League start, the first player to reach that milestone. He celebrated it with a 0-0 draw at home to West Ham, and I'm sure Gareth Barry wouldn't have it any other way. Congratulations to the midfielder, an incredible achievement. Our next villains are Liverpool. We could have just included the Liverpool defence as they were all over the shop once again against Burnley, but their attackers were hardly firing either, with Mo Salah the only player able to breach the Burnley defence, despite Jurgen Klopp's side having 35 shots. The Reds' attempts at defending were woeful, losing personal battles while Joel Matip and Ragnar Klavan looked like strangers meeting for the first time. And they nearly threw away a point at the end with Ben Mee missing 2 glorious chances from back-to-back corners. The Sadio Mane-less Liverpool aren't the terrifying prospect they are when the Senegal forward is in the team, and they're going to keep throwing points away with their failed attempts at defending. Our third hero of the week is Sergio Aguero. My word, Man City are dangerous this season. They absolutely dismantled the Watford side that had started the season brilliantly. Sure, there were some question marks about offside for a couple of Man City's goals, but Sergio Aguero was in inspired form, with his hat-trick goal an incredible solo run as he danced through the Hornets' defence, bagging his 5th goal of the season to make him the league's top scorer alongside Romelu Lukaku. Guardiola's side were ruthless at Vicarage Road on Saturday, and they did it in front of Sir Elton John of all people. The poor bloke will have been distraught. I suppose we've got to make some Elton John puns while we're here. Sergio Aguero was like a rocket man on Saturday, while Watford will hope they don't suffer any more hammerings before they step into Christmas. Pep Guardiola was certainly feeling the love that night. And that's the end of this week's awful puns. Apologies to all involved. Our next villain is the referees. We don't want to hammer the referees here at HITC Sport, but there were a lot of big decisions that went the wrong way this weekend, which had a big impact on the games. Huddersfield will feel aggrieved about a goal they had disallowed, Liverpool and Tottenham should have had penalties, and Newcastle also had a big claim, which fortunately didn't bite them on the backside. The country's top referees are failing to get the big decisions right, making it more and more likely that we'll see video refereeing in the Premier League, whether you like it or not. Should the Premier League use video referees? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Our final heroes from Saturday are Newcastle United. Go back to the second week of the Premier League and Newcastle had suffered back-to-back defeats without scoring a goal, and there was a full inquest from the country's media slamming the club, stating that they would be heading straight back down to the Championship. Well, we're 5 games in now, and Rafa Benitez's side are 4th in the table after 3 straight wins, with Jamal Lascelles scoring the winner for the 2nd week in a row. Only Henrik Mkhitaryan has more assists than Matt Ritchie so far this season, and suddenly there's no longer a crisis on Tyneside. It's funny that, it's almost as if the media were trying to cause a storm over nothing. Over to Sunday, and our next villain is David Luiz. There were some ridiculous calls for him to be sent off earlier in the game when he tried and failed to execute an overhead kick, with some pundits claiming it was dangerous play, which is a load of rubbish, but I think Luiz was rightly sent off at the end for his foul on Sead Kolasinac. The Sideshow Bob enthusiast was totally out of control. It was a reckless challenge where he really tried to leave something on his opponent. You could see the incident coming because Luiz looked like he was dying to do something stupid. The 3rd red card of the season for Chelsea, but was Luiz rightly sent off? Tell us your thoughts. Our next heroes are Arsenal. It's probably the first time this season but Arsenal are falling into the heroes category for their performance at Stamford Bridge, with Arsene Wenger getting his tactics spot on and his players being disciplined enough to execute them. Ramsey and Xhaka were actually solid in the middle of the park for once, and for the first time in a while Arsenal were tough to beat and could have gone on to win the game with big chances missed in the first half. A great result for Arsene Wenger, who will be thrilled with the clean sheet after their mauling at Anfield the other week. Back to the villains, and we've got the sleeve sponsors. This is mainly aimed at Everton, whose new sleeve sponsor is Angry Birds. While most clubs have either got betting sites or other conventional sponsors, Ronald Koeman's side are being backed by the game your dad loves playing on his iPhone. I'm not a fan of these new sponsorship rules to begin with, but it's made even more worse by Angry Birds getting themselves on a Premier League shirt. What's next? Candy Crush sponsoring the whole division? Tell us where you stand on sleeve sponsors, because we're not having them one bit. The game's gone. Our final hero of the week is Antonio Valencia. Dear me, what a strike that was from the fullback. Valencia had no right to hit that ball on the half volley as sweetly as he did. It's one of those you see sliced into touch so many times, but the Ecuadorian caught it sweet as a nut and struck it with such ferocity that Jordan Pickford had no chance, no matter how close he was to it. Hands down the goal of the weekend from Valencia, but still not sure it's better than Charlie Daniels' strike from the other week. That has to remain the goal of the season so far. And our last villain of the week is Romelu Lukaku. This might be a contentious one depending on which side of the coin you're on, but I don't think Lukaku was right to celebrate the way he did after Man United's second and third goal. Yeah, the Everton fans had been booing the big Belgian, but they had every right to the amount of times Lukaku said he wanted to leave and play in the Champions League. There's nothing wrong with ambition, but there's a right way and a wrong way to leave a club, and Lukaku falls into the latter category. The shushing of the Everton fans from Lukaku wasn't needed. He could have just let his football do the talking, and had a bit more class. When asked about it after the match, Lukaku said it was just a bit of banter. Now that excuse may have worked for Richard Keys, but it's not washing with us, Romelu. So those are this week's heroes and villains from the Premier League. Let us know yours in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.